Hello, we're back again. How are you, Podders? We took the full length of time to recuperate. With me tonight on It's an Arsenal Thing podcast, we've got Neil. How are you?
Hey, oh, I'm fine. Thank you for having me on. It's great to see you, Tom, and lovely to meet Lauren. So looking forward to it.
Well, I just said it pays, doesn't it? Stalking outside his house, following him round the supermarket, and then finally get him on. Sending him letters through the post, begging
Oh dear,
letters they were.
bless you, bless you.
Lauren, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Great to be back.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the time would go incredibly slowly, but in fact, it went quite quick. We got a World Cup jabbed in. We'll talk about that at some point. Here we are again, Podders, and we're back in the groove, and we're going to talk about the Forest game, who was hot and who was not. We'll look forward to the WSL, and that's against, I'm trying to pronounce it, Link Shopping.
Don't ask me. Don't ask me. It's.
Well, I went on one of those pronouncing apps to try and get it, and it sounded like Link Shopping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't come to me with
That's
that.
in the Champions League. Comes up September 6th, is it?
Mm,
Rewind. We're going to go to the summer transfers in the WSL and obviously for the men's Premiership team. And we'll ask, is it time? Is it time to bury the hatchet with the Cronkies? Have they shown enough commitment? Well, they have. They've spent a few quid, haven't they? But is it all forgiven and forgotten? We'll do that. Later, we'll discuss the added time debate. Some are for it, some are not. I must admit, straight out, let's get it out the back. I quite enjoy seeing a full match because apparently last season it was 55 minutes was the average for a Premier League game, and that's not good enough if you're paying all that money to go. Last season saw no, we'll just look making mistakes already. Raya and Ramsdale, what's your position on it? We'll talk about that because I had an interesting. You'll like this, Neil. I had an interesting one with Rich and on the other podcast and said that why should Raya come in and be Arsenal's number one goalkeeper? I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's just. He's done enough. He's been very consistent, and in games he's saved us as well. So why would Raya walk in? We'll discuss that later. We'll go through those summer transfers, as I said. Firstly, 5-1 was a shock result. Newcastle, Graham from the Five Bells. How are you, mate? Couldn't believe it. It was 3-1 at one stage, and then it was 5-1. But then the predictability of football came back in. Sorry, Paul Mack. Everton lost. So we're all back to normal again. Dennis Bergkamp was seen at the stands in Bromley to watch his son play. And I thought that was quite good, having a footballing god up in the stands. Right then, the Forest game, there was a 30-minute delay, some sort of debacle with a ticketing system. Thousands stranded outside. What did you make of that, Neil? I was just, there was a kind of dispute as well because you had Richard Keys and that numpty Andy Gray. Andy Gray said, they've got tickets, just let them in. Totally forgetting about Hillsborough. And that was one of the things that went down. So what did you make of it all? Surely we should get a ticketing system that works.
Well, I was in it. I was in it. I was trapped amongst all those supporters, and I was thinking the same thing. I thought, gosh, this is not going to be another Hillsborough, is it? Because although we weren't getting crushed as such, they were still letting people in when there was clearly nowhere to go. And I would have thought that when you exit the stadium, there's a lot of traffic control to stop an influx of people trying to get into the train station. So why couldn't do that in reverse and maybe hold people near the entrance to the bridges rather than let more and more people in when they clearly knew well in advance that there was a problem with the system. I found it unbelievable that they had not. I mean, they may have tried and tested it, but I don't think they've tried and tested it in numbers. They can't have done for it to fail so badly. And end of the day, it's all about people's health and safety. And to allow something like that to happen on the first game of the season, I think it's not on. It really isn't on. There was talk about the match being postponed and so forth. And you think, some people have travelled from far to be there. Some people, it's like they only get a chance to go maybe once or twice a season, if that's all. I think a lot. It could have been handled a lot better. The other annoying part of it is it's a multi-million-pound complex stadium. and the tannoys that eventually came to life saying that, you know, the delay been kicked off by 30 minutes was so quiet that it was hardly audible. It wasn't clear. So everyone was asking each other, oh, what did they say? What were they saying? So I think it should have been handled a lot better. Then we got, obviously, the beauty of social media. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I think it's good for some things and it's atrocious for others. And there was a video that got released that they'd open up the main doors in each block to allow people in, to try and ease the pressure. But you know, even that can come with its down you know, pitfalls, because if there's like loads of people seeing an open door and then rushing, that could be dangerous. So I don't know. In the end of the day, when I eventually got in, I had to use the you know, the PDF, not the PDF, my phone, the app on the phone, to actually scan my ticket in. So the people around me were getting in as per normal when we eventually did it. But wow, that was dicey. That was dicey, and I hope they sort that out, because it could be a disaster next time. And there were some people who were in trouble. I don't know if you saw some of the video footage or the photographs. There was ambulance people around, and you know, they were trying to revive people that had fainted or collapsed. It's not good. It's really not good.
No, it's a shambles. But yeah, I mean, it kind of leaves you. This day and age, you expect everything to work perfectly. It obviously didn't. But they will resolve it, I'm sure. Me, I had a different sort of vibe. I was going to work in the evening, so I was going to go down the pub and watch it. And then the delays kicked in. And I thought, Christ, I'll never get out and go to work again. So let's get on to that team selection for the Forest game. Something a bit more chirpier. That's what we want. Kieran Tierney was not included in Arsenal's squad to face Forest due to tactical reasons. Lauren, do you think tactical reasons actually hangs straight?
I mean, I can't really remember the bench now, but if Zinchenko's on the bench, I don't think there's a need. Yeah, that would be great. That would be that. We should have started with that one. No. If Zinchenko's on the bench, then I think that's a fair shout. You know, there's no need to have three players in one position, particularly the left back position. We have players who are more than capable of adapting to fit it. So, obviously, it's a bit weird. I think it doesn't help with the speculation regarding his future at the club.
Yeah.
I would like to think, especially now, I'm sure we're going to touch on it as well, Timber picking up the injury, I think that hopefully it's nothing and it's been blown out of proportion, and I hope Tierney does stay at the club. He's not really the fullback that Arteta is trying to adapt into the squad, but I do think that a player like him is very useful to have, to offer a bit more depth, to offer a bit more, you know, to not be as predictable going into games. And I think that's something that Arsenal haven't really had in the past few seasons. And I think, you know, obviously I'm getting ahead of myself here, but yeah, no, it's great. So I would like to think that it was just a pure tactical decision, and you know, having two left backs on the bench probably isn't necessary against a team who don't really offer that much of a threat going forward, you know.
Trouble was that Zinchenko had an injury. So I would have, I mean, I'm not Mikel Arteta, obviously, but I would have put Tierney in front of him because he'd had an injury. But as you say, speculation is rife. Back to the lineup, all three new signings were given a run out. Let's give you that team. 4-3-3, Ramsdale, Thomas Partey, right back. Ben White, William Saliba, Jurriën Timber, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Eddie Nketiah got a bit of a run out, and Gabriel Martinelli. What did you make of that selection, Neil? I saw it. I nearly passed out. If it wasn't bad enough waiting to get into the ground, I nearly passed out when I saw this.
Oh, God, don't make me laugh, Tom.
That's what we're here for.
True. Yeah, I've got to be more jovial. Shouldn't be so. I'm just gutted for Timber at the moment. I'm really got this hangover about Timber. It's really hurting. You know, the 3 points all well and good, but oh man, I just hope to God, like Lauren said, I hope it's not an ACL. I'm praying it's not an ACL, because if it is, that's pretty damn serious, unfortunately. But anyway, going to the team sheet, yeah. I am a big Trossard fan, and I can't understand why the man is not getting more minutes. I know there's reasons to believe that maybe he's a super sub or an impact sub, a bit like Nelson was last season. But I think he's so good. In my book, he's so good. I think he's the best January signing Arsenal have ever made. And that's a massive statement from me, because you know, I've been around a long time. But I just feel, I don't understand why he's not getting more game time. But it is what it is. So that for me was a little bit baffling. Seeing Tierney not on the bench, for me, I'm going the other way. I mean, I like him, Lauren, as well. I really do. I think he offers something different in those kind of cagey games where we need a traditional left back to play. He's such a great option to have because he's not a bad player. He could probably walk into most Premiership teams, if not all of them. But the big one, you're right. The baffling one was, hang on a minute, what's Partey doing on the right back position? I mean, we've got right backs, right? What? But as the game went on, I mean, to be fair, in a way, apart from the second half, it kind of worked. And I just think is it really the time to experiment on the first game of the season?
That's what pre-season's for, isn't it?
Right. And why wasn't that done if he was going to do something like that on one of the friendlies or even the Community Shield, for goodness sake? I mean, don't get me wrong, it was lovely beating City, but if you're going to still experiment, do it then. I don't understand the reasons for doing it on the first game of the season because it could have backfired. I mean, to be fair, he done well. Partey did actually have a great game overall, but I just didn't understand that. And if you ask me about Havertz, don't, because I'm still trying to work out. I think he's a great player. Look, I'm not going to criticise him. I never try and criticise Arsenal players because that's not what I'm about. But I feel that I think Havertz has still hung over from his Chelsea days. At Leverkusen, he was absolutely brilliant. He was brilliant. That's why Chelsea bought him. But I think Chelsea didn't suit him, and I think he's going to take time to adjust to the Arsenal way. I think there's a good player in him. I think you know what will happen. This is my personal opinion. Obviously, what do I know? And I could be wrong, but I think he's eventually going to become a target man. That's what I think. But at the moment, I can't discuss his positions because I don't know. But having said that, I don't think he's done much wrong either. The times I've seen him play, he hasn't really done anything wrong. Hasn't set the world alight, but he hasn't done anything wrong either. But I just feel Trossard, for me, should be coming in more often. That's my biggest thing about all of this so far.
Well, that was my thing. No Trossard, Partey at right back, and then Eddie got to run out. I mean, you know, it's like living in a dream. Couldn't make it up, could you? Right, let's get into the match. 11 minutes, nearly a horror start for Arsenal against the run of play. Forrest are in behind Arsenal. We went to sleep at the back. How unusual. Johnson is all on his own. He latches onto Bowley's header and beats Ramsdale, but cannot keep his shot on target. 26 minute, more joyous moment, Podders. We revelled in this. Nketiah scores. Lauren, did you see the game? I'm going to throw it to you. Did you see this game, or did you catch it eventually? Because I know you didn't.
No, I couldn't watch it live, unfortunately, even with the delay. Didn't help in my case, but I obviously watched the highlights, and thank you for coming to me with this goal because it was a beauty. What a way to start the season. And obviously, look, I'm a massive fan of Trossard as well, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to leave someone like Gabriel Martinelli out of this team as well. It's really difficult. I think it's really, really difficult. And obviously, Trossard, great case for him to be made to be starting. I think that left wing position suits him the best. I think that's where he's probably the most dangerous. But I mean, obviously, Gabriel Martinelli finished the season with an injury last year, so maybe he's not really fresh in everyone's mind the same way. But I think he made himself known on the pitch that day. What a dribble! And credit where credit's due. I thought Nketiah took it very, very well. You know, it was a great goal. Great way to get the.
For me, Lauren, it was a typical juicy Arsenal goal, wasn't it? A lovely little bit of footwork, a sort of roll and a turn and a back heel, and it was just a dream start, really.
Absolutely. No, it was, yeah, a good way to get the ball rolling, as they say.
Neil, he's a fantastic player, isn't he? He brings us so much. Gabriel Martinelli. I think, as we discussed on the podcast last season, we didn't kind of get the best out of him because we didn't give him the best service. It was all right for Saka because he had Ben White kind of backing him up, but it seems to be kind of going his way at the minute, and it is early days, obviously.
Yeah, I
thought you'd gone to sleep then.
No, sorry, I was trying to get my thing on. I was trying to find the cursor to twist the unmute button. My apologies. So professional here. Well, I saw him in his first ever appearance in one of our friendlies, and I thought, oh my God, he's got the potential to become one of the best strikers in the world, if not the best. I think I love the guy. I've always loved him. I think do you remember when Emery was playing him in the same position with Tierney just behind him, and they were linking up so well just before I think Martinelli got injured? I thought, wow, what a play. He's even got a header on him as well. It was just phenomenal. His pace is electrifying. He scares defenders with it. And I agree with you, Lauren. You can't drop Martinelli. I was going to go a bit off the wall and think maybe push him to the centre. I've always wanted to play in the central position. I don't know why. I just think he's got what it takes to be a central striker because of his pace. And maybe then Trossard could go back, into his more natural position. But anyway, it's just because I love Trossard as well. It's a difficult one for me. But I think he is phenomenal. What Saka does on the right, Martinelli's got on the left. My only criticism was I think he wasn't getting enough service on the left. That's because it was very right. The game seemed to be more on the right-hand side. It was all about Saka, which is fine because Saka is just a worldie. But and obviously we saw it a bit later on as well. But however, Martinelli can do it as well, and he proved it with that. Some people were saying that was a miss kick. It wasn't a miss kick. If you watch it in slow motion, you can see he's done that deliberately. It was like seeing Bergkamp all over again. It was just amazing.
I was just thinking that, because apparently that wasn't meant.
No, exactly like the Newcastle goal, 100%. But the other thing I noticed about him this time, which I haven't seen too much of, and he has done it before in the past, that his defending as well from the front was insane. There was 2 moments where he tracked back and got the ball back, and I'm like, is that Rice or Martinelli? Because obviously where we're sitting, so I was asking the guy, he goes, no, it was Martinelli. I thought, oh my goodness me. So he is fantastic. He deserves all the minutes he gets, and he will get them. And of course, we've got a plethora of games now to play at the top level with being in the Champions League again. So I'm sure Trossard will get his chance. I just feel a little bit sour grapes about him because I think he's so good. He's never done anything wrong. He comes on the pitch every time. And even if he gets 10 minutes, he's an impact immediately. He really does. He has a positive effect on the whole team. He changes things for us. And my only fear, Lauren and Tom, is if it carries on in this vein, I can't see him staying because he will get into another club. And I have that same fear, unfortunately, with Emil Smith Rowe as well. But let's see how the season pans out.
It's very hard to keep these players, especially when you're that good, to keep them all sort of satisfied sitting on a bench. It's not really what they're after. It's not really what they want, and it's not what you expect them to have. So we're going to stay with you, Neil. We gave Lauren the first goal. We'll give you the second. 32 minutes. Saka with an absolute banger. I'm going to go with goal of the month already.
Oh, Lauren, I feel sorry because I'm sure you wanted to talk about it, so I'll try and be brief. I mean, what can you say about him? I mean, God, I think they were both contenders for goal of the season. I think I really do believe that. When that went in, the crowd, the gasps, and then again on the replay when you see it on the big screen, they were just mouths and jaws were on the floor. They were like picking. What the hell was that? Now I know it's a trademark goal of his, but my God, I think that's one of the best he's ever done. No goalkeeper in the world, even 2 goalkeepers probably wouldn't be able to stop that. It was amazing. It was just incredible. And what I did like as well, the weird thing is, we were talking about Partey earlier. Both Partey and Saliba were right at the front on the right-hand side, setting that goal up. And it was great work from Saliba, actually, because he won the ball back when they were trying to break away. But they didn't close their lines. And all of a sudden, Saliba got in there. And then Saka did his business. And God, there's nothing to say. I'm going to let Lauren say it because it's great.
Yeah, here's my point, Podders, right? You got Martinelli out on one side, you got Saka on the other. Imagine if you had a killer centre forward. And I'm not saying Jesus isn't the real deal, but he won't get you 20, 25 goals. But if you had that, what a potent sort of strike force that would be, wouldn't it, Laurie? Should
Absolutely.
we be looking in that area before the transfer window shuts?
I mean, I would love to have that striker that we can just turn to when we need a goal like that, but I just don't think it's Arteta's plan. I really don't think it is. Even getting Havertz in, like Neil said, he's done very little wrong, and something that he's done exceptionally well is something that Jesus does as well, which is that hold-up play to make sure that he gets the ball high up the pitch and he waits for the wingers. It's all coming from the wings, and not only the wings, but not just Saka, Martinelli, but also from the wing backs, and that's why it works so well. It just doesn't really strike me that Arsenal are going the route of having, a Haaland, a big striker up front that they could go after. Would it be great? I think so, particularly games where we're not getting much space. The Saka goal, it was phenomenal, but the defense did the one thing that you're not meant to do against Saka, and that's they gave him an inch of space. That, you know, there was 3 players who probably could have been a bit closer to them, but they gave him enough time. Not discrediting the goal, it was exceptional. There's nothing more I can say. It was phenomenal. You're kind of looking at Saka and you're thinking, is there anything you can do, or how are you going to get better? And every week he comes out with something different, you know, and it's incredible. What age is he? 21, 22, and I mean, he has all the makings to be an absolute club legend and, you know, one of the Premier League greats. So it's really, really fantastic. Going back to your question, Tom, would I like to have a striker there? Yes, but I don't think that it really fits in with the way that, you know, Arsenal are trying to build their team. They're trying to be unpredictable. They're trying to have attack coming from every side. And, you know, I think, as Neil said, I think once Havertz gets his, you know, confidence back a bit, he's tall. There's nothing stopping him from being pretty deadly in the air with headers. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
There's definitely a player in there, definitely. But we said that about Pepe.
For sure. And I think Nketiah does also have some of that you know, poacher instinct. It just needs a bit more game time. But look, you know, how often has Gabriel Jesus been out injured, and he's stepped up every single time. So yeah, interesting to see what happens for sure.
It's just quite sad, isn't it? Because the players that are getting injured, it's a recurring injury. You know, Tommy Asu had an injury, got an injury. Gabriel Jesus, injury. We'll leave it there, Potters. We could go on and on. And if we went to the women's game, oh my God, there would be a list. It'd be like a shopping list. Let's get back to the game after that 25-yard bender. What a classic that was. I'll tell you what, though, Neil, I will say Martinelli, I think, is only at, this is the worrying thing, about 60% of his potential. Do you agree?
100%. He's nowhere near beat. Nowhere near, and that's frightening. So all I can hope and pray for is we keep him for a very long time. Can you imagine Saka and Martinelli for years on the wings? Wow.
And well, he did say that I will stay. They put a contract in front of me. I will stay. And that's the vibe that Arsenal are going with.
Yeah. I think a lot of credit has to be given to Arteta and Edu. Let's not forget what they're building here. They're really building what looks like a proper family unit. Professional, but like a family. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video today of Raya. So nice, you know, the grandfather getting involved, and it's just, and that makes the player feel so welcome when you see your boss, your new boss, being so kind of, how can you say, have a bond straight away with your grandfather, which I'm sure he adores, and you could see that he does. You know, saying, "Oh, he's 91," and it's just such a lovely touch, and that's the kind of how can you say, it's like a community and a family, and the environment that they're creating at the club is just beyond any other club that I know. It's Arsenal is so unique like that, and that's actually come from Wenger. Wenger introduced that many years ago, and when he came on board, he was always like a father figure to all the players, and I think Arteta has carried on those virtues and values of the club, and I love it. And I think a lot of credit has got to go for them. And that also, that sprung something else in my mind about Havertz. You're saying about Havertz. I think the days, there are always going to be some mistakes in transfers, in and out. But I think we're getting a lot better with them. We're getting a lot more cuter with them. And they must have seen something in Havertz to say, right, we're going to spend 65 million on this guy because we need him to be in here. Honestly, so I think there is definitely a player there. I just think he's going to, out of the 3 new signings, well, now we don't know what's happening with Timber, but out of the 3 new signings, I was saying before Timber's injury, I think he'll probably take the longest to really settle in and before we see his best. And I think Lauren made a good point, because I think at Leverkusen, he was scoring quite a few goals with his head as well. So we'll see a lot of that. And we haven't had many headed goals from our players, have we, in the past? It's normally feet goals, you know, pass, trying to walk the ball in the net. So it'd be nice to have that when we're struggling a little bit, just to, how many times have you heard the crowd, shoot, get it, shoot, what's the matter with you? Take too many touches because you want to do the perfect goal. So yeah, Martinelli, going back to Martinelli, is wonderful.
Well, they did shout out, didn't they, for Saka to shoot, and he obliged, and in style as well. Lauren, interesting your point about Arteta and the way he sees our front line. It's kind of like he wants the goals to come across the board. He doesn't want your traditional, predictable striker. He wants goals coming in from Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, Declan Rice, who we'll talk about in a bit. But it's a more widespread canvas, isn't it? A more modern approach, I suppose, because you haven't got the depth of these centre forwards that you used to have.
Absolutely. I think, I'm sure we're going to mention him as well when we come up to the transfer part, but I had kind of hoped that maybe Balogun would probably stay and be a bit more involved with the squad following his loan over in France. I thought, he has a lot of potential there to be that, the target man, shall we call him. But it just doesn't seem that that's the route that they're going for. And, you think back to some of the goals that Saka and Martinelli scored last year from absolute impossible angles. And you're just kind of thinking, is there anything these guys can't do? So, yeah, I think unpredictability, if the striker that comes to everyone's head obviously is Haaland. I mean, let's not fool ourselves here. But unless you are a top-notch defender, you're not going to stop him. But players are going to learn how to play against him, and I think that kind of striker will become stoppable. But the system that Arsenal are playing, the system that Arsenal that Arteta's distilling in the players, it's changing every week. And I think the depth that we have in the squad is actually going to benefit us, because you're going to bring in Trossard, and people are going to be expecting Martinelli. You're going to drop Nketiah when Jesus is back, and he's going to have a lot more hold of play then. So I think it's really going to start to become very, very intricate once we have the full depth of players there available, once everyone's comfortable with the system. So it's something that we should all really be looking forward to. I think we are. Obviously we can sit here and say, we'd love the Haaland or the whoever, but I think there's a lot to be very, very hopeful about here. And like, as we said, I mean, these players are nowhere near their peak. It can only get better, which is terrifying, not for us, but for everyone else involved.
Just to go back to Haaland, I mean, he didn't score for 6 games. Then they worked out he needed an oil change. That was what it was. So they tinkered about there. He's all right now. But Pep virtually had to change the City side to accommodate him, didn't he, Neil? They were playing a different style of football altogether.
Yeah, and I think that's what Arteta doesn't want to do. I think Lauren is spot on. Everything she just said is spot on. I completely agree with it. It's not his style. I know there's a lot of his game he wants to emulate, but I think there's obviously going to be Arteta's bits in there as well. And I think getting a Haaland type striker is probably not the way he wants to go. I mean, we saw it in early doors when he first joined. He just didn't want that kind of player in there. When he was playing Lacazette in the middle, he had Lacazette actually playing so deep. He wasn't really an out-and-out striker, if you like, which maybe suited Lacazette's style of play better, but Arteta didn't want it. So, we would go look back as far as then to say and suggest that it's just not his way. And if you think about just talking about City for a second, look how well Saliba did to shut Haaland up anyway in the Community Shield. I know it was only a Community Shield, people say that, but don't be fooled if anyone would think that Pep didn't want to win that game and wasn't bothered. He's bothered about every single game he plays. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been as successful as he is today. He wants to win everything. And you saw his reaction when they scored. So, I'm sorry, of course he wanted to win that game. And Saliba, this is what I said at the beginning of last season. I said, I'm not worried about Haaland because we've got Saliba. We only have to play City twice, but we've got Saliba. But unfortunately, he got that injury and he couldn't face Haaland. And now look, when he did, shut him right up. And that's credit to him and how good a player he is. So I don't think, it worked for City. City are a tremendous club. Let's not beat around the bush. They're the club to beat. They're the club to emulate, I suppose, in where we want to go in our vision or Arteta's vision. But I think there are going to be subtle differences as well. And I think having a striker up front is going to be different. I think Lauren's right. I think Arteta likes the unpredictability. It bamboozles defenders and the opponents. They don't know who to mark and where to mark them. Because Jesus, for example, is everywhere. He's like a pinball machine, a pinball wizard. Like, he's all over the place. How can you mark someone like that? It's impossible. So that's what I think about that. Yeah,
I love Jesus, but as I say, the injuries are a concern, and he's not going to get you 20, 25 goals, which is a bit sad. Let's get back to the match. Where are we? Looking at the script, that's where we are. 45+3. Timber is in need of medical attention. He pulled up in the second half in the 48th minute, and that's where we got this. We're still not sure. We're not sure, Potters. If you know, it's an Arsenal thing 4 at gmail.com. We'll take your word for it. Okay. He did look great against City. I think he's an amazing player, and you can see why we spent the money on him, can't you, Lauren?
Yeah. I was devastated, to be honest. Yeah, but the Community Shield, he really came out, and I honestly thought he was the best defender on the pitch, no matter how good Saliba did. I really kind of sat there thinking, I was expecting this type of performance from Declan Rice with that hefty price tag. We know Declan Rice in the league. Timber came in and he really looked like he was ready, and it's devastating. Obviously we joke there about ACLs and the women's team, but I can't take another one. I really can't take another one. And I really hope that it's not as serious as it looks, not just for him, but for the whole team. It looked as though Arteta was going for that 4 centre backs really across the back 4. It looked like it had been working. I worked against City. It's devastating, and I think he offered a lot of cover if, for example, Saliba got injured again, which we obviously don't want, but it looked like that he was that, with all due respect to Rob Holding, the quality cover that we needed, that we lacked last season when it came, crunch time. Maybe it's better that it's happening now to get it out of the way. I don't know. I don't think that's the best mentality to have. I'm trying to look at the positives here, but yeah, really, really devastating. Because
God, is that your positive?
No, I don't know.
Let's talk to Neil. He's a positive man. We'll get to you in a minute, Neil. Carry on, Lauren. Sorry.
No, he looked really like he had the potential to be signing of the summer, and I was thinking, this is great. Who would have expected it? But yeah, I think the best thing to do now is just not panic and hope for the best. Cross your fingers, cross your toes, and just wait it out.
I can't cross anything else. I'll fall over. Neil, what he's got, which I like, is he's got, especially not them. What I like is he's got pace, but he's got that traditional sort of defender's awareness. His spatial awareness of what's happening around him is absolutely bang on the money.
Guys, if Zinchenko and Tierney had a kid, it'll be Timber. That's exactly what it is. He's got a bit of both.
Son of.
He's yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. He's got the awareness. I think he's very intelligent. He's strong. He's good with duels. Luckily, I was fortunate to see 45 minutes of him, and I hope I see a lot more of him for the rest of the season. But luckily where I was sitting, I was right next to him almost. So he was playing on that side. That's where we were sitting, and I was just watching him because I was in awe. I think Lauren's spot on. He was also very, very good in the Community Shield. And I was just in awe what I saw, and I thought, wow, what a player to have. Because I thought initially he was going to play on the right, and then he's playing on the left. And apparently, yes, he can play in the centre. It's just incredible. Wow, what a cover to have. And you're not disrespecting Holding. I think Holding, I've always liked Holding. I think he's an immaculate professional. He's a consummate professional, and he's great for the club. But he's just, unfortunately, he does the best that he can. I don't think he can go near above that. Whereas Timber, you're right, Lauren, if we had an injury to one of the players that are regulars, the levels are not going to drop because this guy is just great. And it's so devastating that this has happened. I'm trying to be positive. I hope it's nothing serious, and I hope he's back within a few weeks. That'll be amazing news. That's 3 points in itself if that's the case. But even the way he left Ajax, that video that came out, the way he was so enthused about joining Arsenal, it's so sad to see him fall like that. And I'm not privy to what goes on behind the scenes, but I was very surprised. People around me at the game were surprised to see him come back on in the second half. I think that may have been an error, unless it was a different injury. We just don't know, do we?
Yeah, it may have got progressively worse, and he's sort of inflamed something. But fingers crossed, Podders. I can't even talk. Fingers crossed, Podders, that he comes through this. Right, let's get back to the game again. 56 minutes. The visitors send a long throw into the box. Ball bobs about. Yates brings a smart save from Ramsdale. Yeah, criticise Ramsdale, eh? He's still saving the ball. 76 minutes, we get our first portion of Rice. It was nice to see old Declan Rice. Almost got his first goal. Summer transfer went for a 25-yard attempt and brought the best out of Matt Turner, who got down well. Lauren, what do you make of? It was quite weird, wasn't it, seeing Matt Turner in the opposite goal? But you understood why he went, because he's a half decent keeper. We never got to really see what he had to offer, did we?
I think, yeah, I think he only got the year at Arsenal. We weren't obviously we didn't go that far in any of the domestic cups. I can't remember if he started in the knockout of the Champions League, the Europa League last season. I can't remember, but I do feel like he didn't really get much of a chance at Arsenal, and I did think towards the end of the season, it probably would have been nice to have given him a run out in the Premier League. I think he at least deserved that. The last game season when it was done and dusted, we had nothing really to fight for then. It makes sense for him to go. I think it was, obviously David Raya coming in, which is a wild one, but I think it makes sense for him to go. I think he just didn't really make that impact on the starting 11, and I think it got a bit too comfortable for Ramsdale at times. There was no way that he was going to be dropped for Matt Turner. Again, great keeper. I think he's actually performed better for his country in the time that he's been an Arsenal player than he has for the club, but you'd wish him all the best, and I just thought it was so typical, wasn't it, that his first game is against Arsenal, and it could have gone one of many ways, but I thought he's going to come out now and he's going to know exactly where Saka's going to put the ball, where Martinelli's going to put the ball, but respectful scoreline for him to have on his start at Forest, and you'd wish him the best. Again, seems like a really great guy. Really, really loved Arsenal, and yeah, but from a professional point of view, it made sense for him to, straight in, and he gets the number one shirt. So you'd wish him absolutely all the best, and hopefully he has the game of his life against City or something. Who knows?
I wonder how many times he's picked the ball out of the net in training against Saka. He probably thought, here we go again. But Raya, Neil, is definitely an upgrade on Turner, isn't he? And a very smart move. Plus, what it says about Arsenal is they're pretty ruthless.
This is what I was saying about Edu and Arteta earlier. I think they are so clued up. I don't know if you've seen it, there's a video going around just before we came on air about showing his distribution. So they've got him training already, and he's showing off his distribution skills. Oh my God. Oh my goodness me. His mouth. I'm like, wow, this is going to be some competition for Ramsdale. Now, I'm with you, Tom. I think Ramsdale is a great keeper. I've loved him from the start. I wasn't one of the ones that was saying, because what was that story that two teams that he'd been involved with were relegated and all this, and what the hell are we spending this money on some keeper like that for? And I was thinking, hang on, give the boy a chance. He hasn't even kicked a ball yet, and you're all destroying him. And he got some pretty bad stuff on social media as well. And I thought that's just ridiculous. I don't call these people fans. I'm sorry, they're not fans.
No, they're not.
They're just idiots trying to get clicks or likes or whatever you want to call it. And I think it can only be, it's showing the ambition of Arteta and Edu. They literally want competition for every single position on that pitch. And they're probably doing it not to upset players that are already there and established. They're probably doing it to enhance. And I think they've probably spoken to everyone to say, look, this is what we're going to be doing. And you're going to have to be part of this vision. You're going to have to be part of this story and this journey. And we're all in it together. We're still a big family, and we're going to work together. And, it was nice that Ramsdale came out with that video saying, I bring it on because it'll be great to have that competition. We'll both challenge each other and, inevitably make each other better or improve both of us. But I think Raya is a great keeper. I think you can't call him a number two. I struggle to call him a number two. He is. I'll be shocked if he starts on Monday. I'm all set for seeing Ramsdale back, between the sticks on Monday. But it won't be long before we see him. And I don't know whether that will be in a Prem or whether that he might actually be the Champions League goalkeeper. But it's rare to have a top team having a different keeper for two top competitions. You might see a number two, say, in the FA Cup or the League Cup. But I don't think they change it for the Prem and the Champions League. So it's a really interesting situation. I'm excited to see how Arteta now deal with it and how he manages both players. It's going to be really interesting, but it's great for us. That's the main thing. It's great for the club.
Well, let's get to the disappointing part. We had the first half, it was pretty much all Arsenal, wasn't it? Second half, we kind of just faffed about a bit. I think that was the thing. We weren't as dynamic as we know we can be. So Ewanihi came on in the 71st minute, and I was dreading that because he is the business. He is the dogs, 78th minute, he combined brilliantly with Elanga, who raced away on a counter before crossing, and he applied a brilliant first-time finish. Ramsdale had no chance at all. Then we went through that. We went through that nervy sort of 20 minutes, didn't we? Lauren, it didn't come across on the edited highlights. You could feel a bit of anxiety, but you know, what my point is, Podders, I've got a point, is that basically when we get to 2-0, some teams get aggressive and go for the 3, the 4, and they don't stop. We tend to go, oh, we're 2-0 up, and ease off a bit. It's a big concern. We did it last season, Lauren.
Yeah, no, I was following it on my phone, and as soon as I saw that, the whole mood changed. You know, it does feel a bit nervy when you see that. I didn't see what subs were made, but from the highlights that I saw, it seemed to have come down the right hand side. So I don't know if Partey was still playing on as the right back then. Did it come from a corner? It looked like we were pretty exposed at the back. Yeah, what a run from Malanga though. I just want to say that what a run from Malanga. Was not expecting that. Great finish. But yeah, maybe that's something that we need to work on, is maybe the cover from set pieces, because I feel like sometimes we often get a bit exposed there. Again, players playing out of position, they probably weren't really, you know, really up to it wasn't really the best decision to make the opening weekend of the Premier League, as we mentioned. But look, we came away with the 3 points. That's the main thing. Clean sheet would have been nice, but yeah, it is what it is, and you can't change that now. But hopefully, you know, how many more times do we need to say it? The intensity needs to be sustained throughout matches to prevent, you know, slip ups like this happening, to prevent lapse of concentration. It only takes 30 seconds for a team to be level, for a team to go ahead. I think we saw that last season. I can't remember which team it was now, but we dominated all
the ones down the bottom.
One of the ones with the B down the bottom, yeah, always the way it is. But yeah, it's so typical, you know, they dominate and then all of a sudden the gears change because we're 1-0 down or we're level. And yeah, that's something as well that I think needs to be worked on. But hey, everything that Arteta's faced, he's worked on it and he's improved it. So I'm sure it's something that we're going to see hopefully this season come to fruition.
Neil, do you think it was fitness? You know, we've done our bit in pre-season, but we just looked a little bit slow and sorry. There was a particular weird part in the play, because over the right-hand side there were options. Partey was over there, Odegaard was over there, but they didn't get the ball across. It kind of, I've moaned last season that it was all going down the right. And then this game, for big portions, it was going down the left, and there were huge gaps that we could have taken advantage of.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think, do you know what? Again, I'm going to be off the wall. I think the Timber injury affected the players, and I know that's no excuse. But you know, if they've got that close-knit camaraderie between them and friendship already, and that may have had an effect, because maybe the players realise that this is serious. And it may have had an effect. Again, they're all professionals. It shouldn't affect them, because at the end of the day, there's still a football match to win and, you know, to keep control of. But definitely there was a drop off in the second half. I completely agree. It was for all to see. It was there. It was noticeable. I think what Lauren has said is right. You play a football match for 90 plus minutes. Every second counts. It doesn't matter if it's 98 minutes gone. You still have to be on red alert all the time, from the kickoff right till the final whistle. City fell for that, didn't they? Because we equalised in the 98th minute. The beat Shield. So you know, you can't switch off. You can't be comfortable, and it is a massive problem that we've had. We tend to 2-0 isn't good enough for us. We just seem to be. In fact, it feels more fragile at 2-0. You know, it's like if they score, the wind is in the opponent's sails, and you're like, oh my god, oh no, and that's exactly what happened. The goal went in, and I'm thinking, firstly, that pace of that guy, he's gonna do it again, and he did it again within a minute. And it's like, oh my god, what are we doing? You know, get yourselves together, get your shape back. You know, try and close down the players if you can. If he's running at 5,000 miles per hour, just try and get to him somehow and close him down. But I think.
Did you feel the vibe around the stadium, Neil? Did you feel that sort of?
No, do you know what? I have to say, despite the problems of getting in, the stadium was still in the same full voice it's been in the last, 18 months to 2 years. The stadium was very, very loud, very vibrant. The songs were being sung. The Ashburton Army were doing their thing. It was crazy. I mean, it was great. So I didn't feel it in the stadium as such, but I just feel that we seem to set ourselves up to be very vulnerable at times. And why do we do that? Because we've got the quality. I don't understand what the reasoning is. So, and to be honest, Tom, if it's down to match fitness, we've had pre-season. It shouldn't be. You know, all those players have had a good run around. I think the only guy that probably still is not quite there with fitness, maybe Declan Rice, because didn't he come back late from holiday or something? I don't know what it was. And I think he seems to be, he's one of the ones that I've seen, of the few games that I've seen him so far, he's improving each game. So I think he's only going to get better, which is obviously a great thing. And by the way, that goal he almost scored, that was a great team move. I don't know if you remember, it started from Odegaard right at the back. So if that had gone in, that would have been 3 contenders for goal of the month. So,
well, let's not get too greedy, eh?
Yeah, but why not? We want to be greedy. We want to win the quad. I've been saying we're going to win the quad.
Arsenal every season always turn up with some cracker goals, and we've seen 2 in the first game. Spoiled to death we are. Right, let's do a new slot, fans view. Got Charmaine McGarry, great first half, in control. 2 brilliant saves by Turner from Rice. And then we switched off, thinking we'd already won. No tackle for their goal. Need to learn from this rather than later with bigger teams who would take advantage because they nearly scored so soon afterwards. Saka, Partey, Rice, Saliba and Martinelli were great, as were others until the goal. Got to be more clinical and slight doubts on Havertz, but I think it will hopefully come good. Charmaine, we agree. Well, I think we agree, do we? Hands in the air. Yep. Right, let's just say hello to a few people who have been messaging and supporting us while we've been off. Michael Grist, Beverly Lowndes, Craig Chamberlain, and Gil Gillespie, Karen Williams, Stuart Feltham, special mention because he knows why, and Glenn Ferrier. Right, let's have some talking points. Declan Rice, the handball, Lauren. Was it? Wasn't it?
They didn't show me that now in the highlights, so don't come to me with that one. You're going to have to go to Neil.
Neil, handball or not?
No, I'm not being biased, no. Don't think so. No. That would have been harsh.
God, just a bit. I mean, even Mr. Shearer got on there and said, no way.
Can I just mention the match of the day?
Yeah, please do.
What was that? What was that analysis about? It was all 2 worldies, not a mention on either of them, right? All negative stuff about Partey's position and how it affected his play. It was dreadful. The only positive was the fact that Shearer said that it wasn't a penalty. That's it. And I'm sorry, that's not good enough. That is awful. At least be balanced. Give Forest kudos if you need to, and criticise if you need to, but also see the other side of it as well. That was horrible.
Were you upset, Neil? I'm gauging you're upset.
A little bit.
Silent Dave, who is with me, people have been sending me messages. Have you sacked him? You can't sack Silent Dave. He's a mate, so he's hanging around. Just because you don't hear from him or whatever, he's still here. But we don't have him on the podcast for the simple reason of the things he comes out with. And what he said recently was he was looking at houses to buy, and he came in all very upbeat about this particular house. And he said to me, guess what? It's got a basement underneath the house. So that's why he's not allowed on the podcast, but he is with us. Yes, all right. Right, so let's get to the match stats. We'll do Arsenal first, and then we'll do Forest. 15 shots for us, 6 for them. 7 shots on target for us, 2 for them. 79% possession for us, 21% for them. 769 passes. That's how good we are. We like to play around. 200 for them, 90% pass accuracy for us, 68% for them. Right then, let's go for the player of the match. We'll come to you, Lauren. I know you saw bits and bobs of it, but you get a rough feel, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the lazy one, but I'm going to go with Saka. His goal was amazing. I can only imagine the impact he had in the game. Mr. Reliable. Bring it on. Let's see what he can do this season. I mean, no matter how many expectations you put on his shoulders, he exceeds them. And yeah, there just doesn't seem to be a ceiling for what he can achieve. So has to be Saka.
Start of the season, another one, isn't he? You just don't know where his ceiling is. And when you first cast your mind back to seeing him, and you think, oh, there's a player here. And then he just went, he went to the next level incredibly quickly, and now he's at the next level. And we kind of moaned last season, didn't we, towards the tail end, because there were times where we felt that maybe Arteta should have hooked him off because he was struggling a little bit. But you are right, 4.6 was the general consensus. He had the highest mark. Neil, what about you?
Before I'd say that, just one quick thing, Tom and Lauren. Let me ask you a quick question. You know their goal?
Yeah.
Havertz was kind of smacked on the head leading up to that. Did you think that was a foul? Because
I did.
I thought it was.
Yeah, I did.
Did you see that, Lauren?
I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that part.
Yeah, he was hit in the head and he fell to the floor, and then he was like raising his hand saying, "Hang on a minute, why is play still going on?" So I thought it was
match of the day highlights. They cut out all that stuff.
They cut. Oh, of course. They know
it's whistle, and a couple of goals if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Dave just asked me to ask you, Neil, what's the shirt behind you?
Oh, that is. Do you know what? I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember the year. That was the. It's got most of the Invincibles on there. I'm lucky to get. I've got about 2 or 3 of these, and one day I might show you. But yeah, that's a company where I was lucky to know the owner, and he did a few of them for me, which was obviously I had to pay him, but it was great to get hold of these shirts. I don't do it anymore, but yeah, that was a bit of a phase I went through.
So can't go around Neil's house.
Yeah, it's mostly
Neil's house through the window.
Yeah. Well, you have been stalking, Tom, so what you got to do is just let yourself in now. But most of the signatures I've got are all the Invincibles and things. So yeah, very, very lucky. Anyway.
What you got there, Lauren? You got a fly buzzing round or something? Look it up in the air there. No other podcast does that. Neil, player of the match?
I would tend to agree with Lauren, but I just want to give a shout out to Martinelli, which Lauren mentioned earlier. I thought he was outstanding. I thought Timber was great before his injury. I also I have so much time for Saliba. I've got too much time for him. I think he's just an epic. He makes the game look too easy in my book. We got to remember the level that these players play at. It's just beyond the nth degree, and this guy makes it look easy. It's just, what is it about him? It's just silk, isn't he, when he plays? And you think he's not going to get that, and he does it with consummate ease. It's just stupid. It's not even breaking a sweat. But yeah, I think overall you'd have to go with Saka, because my goodness me, what would we do without him? Do you remember that couple of seasons where we were struggling, and it was Emil Smith-Rowe and Saka, 2 of the young kids that Emery had brought in, probably because of injuries? They really kept us a little, in the mix a little bit. They gave us the club a bit of credibility. I mean, they are, and that was at such a tender age. What, they were in their teenage years at that stage, weren't they? Or just breaking into the 20-year mark? I mean, goodness me. Lauren's right. I mean, he's got years ahead of him, and he's brilliant now. What's he going to be like? I just hope he stays forever if he carries on at this level. I really do.
It's interesting with all these prices being bandied about. I mean, what he's worth. I didn't get a chance to have a look, but to be priceless, so you wouldn't want to sell him anyway. And I doubt he would go, because when you get these young homegrown players, they actually connect with the club, with the heart. Sometimes you buy players in that don't make that connection, although we have been very lucky in that department, and they've had a sort of spirit about them with the club. But yeah, anyway, my 2 pennies worth is Gabriel Martinelli. Fantastic, ambitious, creative, dynamic. I've run out of superlatives. Dave, bring some more in from downstairs. Yeah, 4.4, so he wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but I just love him. And there was an interesting bit on All or Nothing when the guy said, I just wish we had more players like him, because he trains like every day is his last. And I think that's the spirit. That's what got him in an Arsenal shirt in the first place. But yeah, that's my sort of understanding of that game. As I say, we've done a little bit about Jury and Timber. So let's press on now. We mentioned about Havertz as well. The jury's just out for me. I haven't seen enough, but obviously he's got to have the chances. So I think, we've got to be reasonable here. We can't kind of slag it. Not that I want to slag any Arsenal player off, but, I just don't want another Pepe on our hands, because everyone's sort of saying 65 million. What'd you pay that for? But let's go to Declan Rice. Lauren, what did you make of the Rice?
I mean, they kept us waiting. They kept us waiting. It was long and it was a pretty stressful wait, especially when City came in. Look, I think it's fantastic. I think everyone's a winner here. I think, West Ham obviously got a hefty price tag for an exceptional player.
Well, that record didn't last long, did it?
Also, like, everything that's going on with the Saudi leagues at the moment, I think the price in football has just gone crazy, and it's ruining it. And look, we spoke about this last transfer window, that would have been last January, and we said, no one's going to be able to rival the prices that English clubs are playing, blah blah blah. And then in comes the Saudi teams, and they said, actually, hold on, and we'll show you what outrageous is now. A very, very hefty price tag, but again, I think, look, we want to be at this stage. We're competing with City. We're competing with the big teams, and look, I don't think we're quite at the level yet where we're going to be pushing for Champions League this season, but obviously we want to be getting as far as we possibly can, and I think the focus will be the Premier League, and we have to have a squad and a team that rivals City, and Declan Rice is the perfect player, and I think him coming to Arsenal shows just exactly where we are at the moment. He's probably the most in-demand player, English player as well, English Premier League. It comes with a heavier price tag. It comes with more pressure, more scrutiny. I'm very excited. From what I've seen so far, I'm very, very excited. He obviously has a lot of respect for the club. It looks like him and Saka are very close already, obviously from the English camps. So it's great. There's not much I can say. I'm really excited to see where how he plays. I think it's very interesting to see how him and Partey are going to fit in. Are they going to play every week in, week out? Obviously, Jorginho as well has been very good when he came in. So, yeah, I'm interested to see. I think he's brought the level of our midfield up a notch, and I mean, hefty price tag. But look, I think there's not much we can really complain about here. What a signing, honestly.
Well, what impressed me, Neil, was the easy one would have been to go to City, wouldn't it? You would get, I'll get trophies by the end of next season. I'll have more medals in my cabinet than I've ever had, and Harry Kane's ever dreamt about. But he dug in, couldn't resist it. He dug in, and he kind of bought into the project. He bought into the idea about what Arteta and Edu were doing, and that really impressed me. But I didn't have any doubts, because when it's Arsenal, they can sell themselves very well, as we've seen.
I think Arteta probably was a big selling point for him. I think the fact that we're in the Champions League as well was massive. So it was so important to get that top four spot last season. So that was obviously another attraction for him. But I think there was only ever one club for him. Number one, he's still in London. He doesn't have to worry about the logistics of a move, getting used to a new home, etc. Because, we tend to forget that. It's very easy to say, oh, can we get him? Can we get him? Can we get him? Or in the women's game, the same. But you've got to remember where they're coming from. And it's a complete lifestyle change for a lot of people. And some people are comfortable where they are. Some people don't like change when it comes to affecting their home life maybe so much. So he would still stay in London. I always believed there's only one club in it. I think the delays were because of the negotiation between the two clubs. I think that was it. I don't think it was a factor of, oh, City are in for me and that's going to be the pull. I don't think that was it at all. And I think Arteta had a lot to play with playing that role as well. The fact that he's sold it to him, he's explained the vision to him, and I think Lauren was absolutely eloquently said it. It's just spot on with everything she said. I think it's an amazing signing. I think he's going to get better and better. I think, to be honest, if there's any criticism about his first match in Forest, and I'm sort of playing criticism, I think he's actually come in almost like a fan. If you look at his videos, he's so overwhelmed. He's going, oh my God, look at the Emirates, and look at the training ground, look at the dressing room. He's absolutely enamored by the whole setup. And I think his first game at the Emirates in the season proper, he might have been a little bit overawed by the whole situation. So if there was any flaws, it was because of that. And as soon as that's gone and the dust settles, we're going to see the best in him. And I also believe West Ham used him more of a defensive player, because obviously teams will go at West Ham. We're a more driving forward team, a more proactive team, and an enterprising team, especially now with all the creativity we've got. And I think that will allow him to do a little bit what Xhaka was doing for us last season, So I think we're going to see so much more from him than West Ham did. And as Lauren said beautifully, I think he's just an amazing signing. And you've got to forget the price tags. Same with Havertz. I know, Tom, you're a bit reserved. We should just forget the price tag. Just accept them as players, and let's just see what they bring to the table. When you put
a good thing is when Arteta got under the skin of Xhaka, we saw the real Xhaka. So I'm hoping that will come into play.
One thing about Havertz as well, he's a Champions League winner. He scored a Champions League winning goal, and I think that's gonna be very, very important this season as well. We don't have a lot of that in our squad, so for me, obviously there's a lot of criticism, and I think it's such a typical Arsenal signing, a striker who underachieves, shall we say it that way, But I think he offers a lot to the squad, and I'm very interested to see where he plays. I think that more attacking midfield role, just behind the striker, is perfect for him. So no, I think overall, I don't think we can be too upset with the signings that we made, the transfers out as well. I think overall it was a pretty solid summer for Arsenal.
Laura, I'm going to stay with you because we mentioned all the big incoming names, but I think we should also mention that we secured the services of very key and important players. I mean, it's no good bringing in players and then letting your best assets go, is it? I think Edu and Arteta really deserve a pat on the back for that as well.
Absolutely. I think you think back to seasons, obviously I wasn't around for, I was not that young, but I wasn't supporting Arsenal for the Invincibles, but after that, every season where it seemed like we were getting closer to challenging, to pushing for the title, our most important players left. And this is the first time I remember where everyone's sealed, signed, and they're staying, and what a feeling it is. And I think that really, really helps to sell the club to other players coming in, to big names like Rice, like Havertz as well. They see that it's a very, very positive culture here, that it does seem like a family, like Neil was saying. It seems so healthy, it seems really, really positive, where people want to be working, where people want to achieve things and have their careers. Like, it's great. And I think it speaks volumes, absolute volumes, about how incredible it is to work in the Arsenal as it is now under Edu and Arteta. And I mean, I don't think we need to give them any more credit than we've already done. But yeah, it's definitely an important thing to focus on and say, those re-signings are equally as important as the signings that we've brought in this summer.
Well, let's just go on to the Cronkies, Neil. I mean, a few years back, you didn't have to think that far back, did you? Jay with his placards in his bedroom, still got them, just in case they go wafty again. But it was a toxic, horrible period of time. The football was shocking. There was no investment. We weren't bringing in the right sort of players. It was higgledy-piggledy all over the place. Have they done something to kind of deserve our support now, the Cronkies? Just tempting fate, Podders.
I'll still hold back on that a little bit. Look, I think they've given us the funds, which is great. They've given Arteta and Edu the artillery they need to go and get the players that they really want to get, and that's working. It wasn't working when they first came. They seemed completely disinterested at the moment. At that time, I think it was just Stan who was involved, and he wasn't really involved, was he? At least Josh shows some face. I think when he initially came along and did that PR, that move, I thought it was literally just a PR move, just to get maybe fans on board, and then he kind of disappeared again. But he seems to have got a bit more involved now, which is a positive thing. And at the end of the day, they're making funds available, and that's the main thing. It's sad to see that football has gone down this way. Lauren touched on the Saudi effect as well more recently, but it's been going on for so long that football is just becoming a money game, and it's really sad because of the old traditions of football in that respect seem to have died, where you've got loyalty of players, etc. And now you just feel like there's some mercenaries in the game, and it is really sad. But that's the way it is. That's the sign of the times, and we've got to go along with that. And I think we were struggling because we were struggling with the finance of the stadium initially. That's why Lauren, made that point about she wasn't seeing nothing coming in, and we were losing each season our best players. Wenger's admitted that. He said he had to sell one good player each season just to keep the finances for the stadium steady. But we've got all over that now. It's all in the past, and I think now we can drive forward. And do you remember the vision when the stadium was built? The vision was we want to be an elite club, up there with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, all of those big clubs. And I think now we are probably almost there, if not already there, to be able to compete with those. And so, I suppose you've got to give some credit to the Cronkies. I'm just saying that very reluctantly through gritted teeth, because I was one of the ones that wanted them out. I didn't go and protest and do all of that stuff, but I wasn't a fan of them at all, because I just thought they weren't interested in the club, and I was hoping we'd get a buyer or they would sell, but they haven't. They've stuck to their guns, no pun intended, and here we are.
I think the big problem with the Cronkies when they first took over was they assumed that the club was in safe hands. The day-to-day running was, I mean, there was only Wenger that was really keeping us afloat, really. And then you had Gazidis. It was a very toxic kind of thing. You had Raul bought in, Sven. So it was a complete hogwash, wasn't it? They relied on people that they shouldn't have relied on. And now they've gone right the way through the card. They've turned it upside down, thrown some of these people out, and they've built up a solid, functional football club from top to bottom. And that's what they've done really well. And the rest is a bonus. We've started to get the foot because of the manager that they've employed. We're starting to see, all the Hale End boys involved and fresh blood brought in, people like Odegaard and all that, and it is working. So I'm with you, Neil. I'm not going to kind of send them a Christmas card or anything like that, or a case of wine. But I mean, we're on for a change. We're looking quite good and quite healthy. Any opinions on them, Lauren? Apart from Josh's fabulous beard,
it's pretty impressive. Yeah. No, I think.
What's living in that?
Better not to ask. You know what? You have to look at clubs like United and how much criticism their owners have gotten, and it doesn't seem to improve at all. At least our owners seem that they've made a conscious effort to listen and improve. And look, from what's gone on the past few seasons, we really can't complain. I think everything that we've needed has been met. We've been given the funds to improve. We've been given the funds to obviously push for those European places which we missed out on for so long. It's pretty good at the moment, I think obviously troubled past, shall we say, but at the moment I think there's no point really trying to create issues where there isn't any at the moment. And the main driving force here is really Edu and Arteta, and they seem to have the full support, and all we can do in return is support them and hope that they continue to honour the club.
Well, it looks like they've got their shit together. I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it, Podders? It looks like they've finally done it. And what a fabulous beard. I'm still impressed with that beard. He looks a bit like a vagrant, though, doesn't he? I mean, a well-suited, well-dressed vagrant. Lauren, we're staying with you. We'll touch on the World Cup, but let's look at the additions for the girls. Declan Rice was a very exciting signature for the men's team. But when I saw Alicia Russo, I was like, get out of here.
Honestly, it was mental. I'm still speechless. I think we mentioned it, obviously last January when she was linked for that record fee, and it didn't happen, and everyone thought, okay, she's obviously going to re-sign with United. They finished above us in the league. To have a player like that come in, I honestly think, it was a tough season last season. I think we probably underachieved, but we have to consider the amount of injuries we had. It wasn't great. So to have the prospect of a fully fit squad next year with Alessia Russo coming in, it's going to be incredible. It's really, really going to be exceptional. And she's had a very good World Cup so far as well. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I honestly, I don't have that many words. I think even ahead of Rice, she's my signing of the summer for Arsenal, and the excitement I felt when I saw her come in, it really, really felt as though, not only the men's club but the women are really pushing to challenge for not only the league but to push in Europe as well. Obviously, we got to the quarterfinals semi-finals. Can't remember which one. Yeah, very near the end. We got very far, and we just fell short to a very good
like that, wasn't it? It all came at once. Yeah. We didn't know what to do with it.
Absolutely, but no, an absolutely exceptional signing, and we've also got in the new centre back so she's playing for Sweden. She was previously at PSG. Ildestadt, I think her name is. I'm very sorry, my Swedish needs some brushing up. But yeah, if you've been following
I'll
the
go
World
along
Cup,
with that, Lauren.
it sounds good. It sounds good. If you've been following the World Cup, you'll see that she's up there in the the potentials for golden boot as a centre back purely from headers. So I think that's definitely a signing that we need to get in following Rafaela's departure. Yeah, it's been very positive so far.
Who's
Obviously,
this?
the World Cup is
Chloe, help me out. Chloe,
Lacasse, I believe. I think
I'll
yeah,
go
she came
along with
from
that as
Benfica
well.
as well. So look, another experienced European player coming in. Yeah, strengthening in all the areas we need to strengthen in, and obviously a few departures, but mostly loans, and all the key players are back and back training as well on grass following ACL injuries. So yeah, a lot to be positive about. But obviously, the World Cup is taking up a lot of the time, and there's not that much really happening in the world of the Arsenal football women's team.
Well, what I was reading, Lauren, we'll just because it's just come to me, a little flash in the head. I was reading that they were looking at these ACLs and saying it's about the women's physique, the body structure, and they were talking about actually designing and making different boots because the way the foot placement and the body structure and the hips and all that sort of thing, there's some sort of scientific nonsense that we can't go into, Podders, but it resonates. There must be a reason because it's on the up, isn't it?
Yeah, I think is it the female athlete is 20% or even more likely to suffer an ACL than a male, in football in particular. So yeah, I believe Nike brought out boots for the World Cup, and the studs are slightly less. They're not as long, and they're slightly in different positions on the boot where they would be for the male athletes. Look, anything that can improve it, because it really was a disaster, and it's not just Arsenal. We saw it across every league, across all levels of the professional women's game last season. It was just disgraceful. Lack of resources, probably poor pitches, poor strength and conditioning, whatever it is. It really needs to be looked at, and boots are probably one large part of it. So yeah, any investment that can go into it that can improve the game and the quality of for us as spectators, obviously, as well, which is pretty selfish to say, but that's what we want. We want to be able to watch absolute legends play the game week in, week out without worrying. At one stage last season, it got to 3 ACLs in the space of 3 weeks, and we kind of all went off. We just call it off now. We just give everyone a break and let them get to the World Cup and let them play, and then restart next season. But yeah, whatever needs to be done. Hopefully, it looks like there's a lot of studies going on in it, how it can be improved. So yeah, it looks like we're taking the right steps anyway.
About time as well. Just to mention that Freya Godfrey, Naomi Williams, and Michelle Aguiman have been given professional contracts as well. So it's good that we're looking after emerging talent. Do you expect us to sign anyone else in this transfer window? Because we've still got people coming back, haven't we?
Yeah, I think it was quite similar tactic to Arteta, in that a lot of the signings were made early. They came in before the World Cup, so all the players that we've signed were away. They were included in the World Cup squad. So I think the idea behind that was to make sure everyone was settled with the club and they could come back to pre-season training as soon as possible after that. I don't really see any need for signing anyone else. I mean, it's obviously hard to predict now. No, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's hard to predict now what way the season will go. Exactly. But yeah, provided that injuries improve and things can be better managed. Obviously, again, that's something that's very difficult to predict and manage. But yeah, it looks like a pretty good squad, one that could definitely rival Chelsea going forward this season, and hopefully some of the bigger teams like Barcelona and Wolfsburg in the Champions League.
Neil, we'll be back with you in a minute, but I want to cover a few things with Lauren. Linköping in the Champions League. We haven't heard much about this mob, have we? Do you know anything about them at all? I think they've got an inhabitants of about 1,500 people or something.
Yeah, no, I don't know that much, to be honest. It's
and they eat lentils and drink vodka in the morning.
No, but just a kind of quick explanation on how it works. So obviously we finished in the 3rd place in the league. We have to play 2 playoff games in order to qualify. So the Champions League for the women is a much smaller competition. I believe there's only 12 teams in it, maybe 16. I think they're expanding it eventually, but I'm not sure when. So it is quite competitive. It's quite difficult to get into, but that 3rd place, I mean, with all due respect, I think we should hopefully get through that game okay. It is in September, and it is at a point in the season when a lot of the players won't be back from pre-season, won't be back from their breaks from the World Cup. I mean, the Swedish girls were just knocked out today. We have obviously Ford and Catley, and then Russo and Wubben Moy playing for England tomorrow in the semi-final for the World Cup. So it's going to be interesting to see what team we can field given the limitations that we have. However, it should be a game that we're able to get through, and I think we definitely have enough quality, especially with the players come back from injury, to push through and get the result, and then lead us to our next Champions League qualification before we can get to the group stages.
Lauren, we're just going to briefly touch on the World Cup.
Yeah.
As I say, with the men's game as well, I only catch it in the latter sort of rounds because I can't do it all. My brain was on overload after the season. I can't do it all. Who's your favourites? Who's going to lift that cup?
It's really tough. I think England. I have to go with England. Obviously, Spain got through in the semi-final today. They beat Sweden. I was highly impressed with Sweden. Neither Spain or Sweden play particularly attractive football. It's kind of boring. I'm not sure if either of you saw the game today, but 3 goals came in the last 10 minutes, and that was to be expected. Sweden play a very conservative football, very good at outpowering, tactically outplaying their opposition. Spain, they play like a classic Spanish team, very good. However, don't like the manager. A lot of things went on behind the scenes there, which we spoke about last season on the pod. I personally don't want that to be rewarded with a win in the World Cup. And I think it'd be great. I really do think it would be great for England to win. Great players. I mean, the FA have done so much for women's football in the UK. I'd love for them to win. I really would. And let's get Alessia Russo coming back as not only a new Arsenal player but as a Women's World Cup champion. That'd be pretty great.
That wouldn't be bad at all, would it? Let's touch on grounds as well, because Arsenal said that they were going to give the girls the Emirates to play. We had a bash, didn't we, last season, about the quality of the grounds. If you're going to promote the game, these two elements are linked, because we get into the Karen Carney business in a minute. But if you're going to promote the game and you're going to put your back behind it, then they should have better equipped venues. I mean, some of these places that they were playing in, it looked like just a recreational park with a few seats.
Yeah, I think obviously we're very lucky here at Arsenal, that the girls have a lot of resources that they can use. They play in, I think it's Bournemouth Woods home stadium. So it's not as if we're particularly suffering or we have a lack of resources, but it's when you go to away games in the FA Cup or something. And, as you said, it's basically a glorified park. And I think it needs to be distributed better. Again, the game's growing so quickly, really, really quickly. It's hard to manage. But I think the right steps are being made, the right changes are being implemented. So, as long as everyone keeps supporting it and keeps tuning in and voicing their support for the women's game, then it's going to continue to grow and, hopefully continue to be managed in a way that is beneficial to the players, that doesn't just exploit them and say, okay, look, we're going to increase the amount of games that you're playing on pitches that are subpar. So the way it's been done so far has been very, very admirable in the UK. I'd have to say the FA, like I said, I have so much respect for what they've done for the women's game. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of being able to manage the exponential growth. And if England do come away with the World Cup, they're going to have to put their foot down and work on it a bit harder, because it's going to spark even more interest.
Absolutely right. We're going to just touch on the Karen Carney report, which was kind of quite damning, really, saying that basically they should be broadcasting at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, raising prize money in the women's game to match the men's, improving training facilities, applying gold standard physical and mental health care. Is it just lip service? Are they going to really concentrate on this and actually do something with this information and this report?
You would hope so. And I think again, like I said, I don't think this is really an issue for the teams like the Arsenals and the Chelseas, where they have an abundance of resources. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at in maybe clubs where, resources are slightly more limited. Maybe they're 95% focused on the men's team and 5% goes to the women. I think that's probably the case where it needs to be looked at and probably shaken around. Again, obviously, I'm not saying that, you know, when you think about it, Alessio Russo was going to go for a world record transfer fee of £400,000, and you consider the prices, you know, the money that's going around in the men's game, it's incomparable. And, you know, I personally, I don't want to see the money go up to that level in the women's game because I don't think it's right. I don't think it's correct. I think if anything, it should be brought down in the men's game. But you know, you do want, you know, players who are considering giving up full-time professional football to work a different job because they're not able to pay their bills, or there's so many different factors. It obviously, look, we can sit here, we can talk, oh, it's great, it's been so improved. Look, there's, you know, 68,000 people watching the game in stadiums, but at the end of the day, as Neil said earlier, all these football players are human and they deserve the right to be respected. They deserve the right to be treated. And in the case of the women, it's just they deserve to be paid fairly and to be given the resources that they need to become the best players that they can. So you would really hope that it does be taken seriously. I think, honestly, given what I know about other countries and the way that they handle the FA and, you know, how the women's games handled, I think the FA in England is particularly good, and you would hope that they will do everything in their power to ensure that the you know, resources are distributed evenly and it's a fair playing ground for everyone. Again, not going to happen overnight, but we're going in the right direction.
And that's all we can do, I suppose. Just keep your fingers crossed and keep the pressure up. Just had a message from what's his name now? Greg. Greg has sent me a message and basically said about the Raya Ramsdale thing, and added that Ramsdale has absolutely nothing to prove. It is going to be an interesting situation, but he said nothing to prove. And I think that's about right, really. People, as Neil said, getting on his case before he even arrived at the club. And some of the superb saves, I mean, cast your mind back to the double save at Leicester, the save against Salah. And this guy's got to prove himself again. It makes very good sense to have a secondary keeper or on a par, that if Ramsdale gets injured, has a loss of form, you can bring him in. And that's, for me, that's exactly what it is. Do you agree, Neil? By the way, we are opting out in a minute, Podders. You won't stay here for the rest of the evening. We are going home. Well, I'm already home, but yeah.
Firstly, I just want to say a tremendous insight by Lauren there. So well done. That was good to hear. Yes, I completely agree. I'm a massive Rami fan, as I call him, and I don't want him to feel that his position's threatened and he's got to think about potentially leaving the club. That would be disastrous. I want him to stay for a long time. I love his personality. I love his character. He's fantastic with the dressing room. You just look at him. He's a little bit off the wall. He's a bit different. He's everything about him. He's almost like a spokesperson for the club. He's always getting involved in things. Do you remember when he first joined and when one of our players would score and his reactions on the other end was just a sight to behold. He absolutely adores the club, and it would be a travesty if this guy, Ray, has been brought in to almost oust him. I don't want that. As you just said there, Tom, I want him to be an equal, if on par, if he's not going to be secondary, and then they're giving each other a little bit of a push in the right direction if it's needed, and it just progresses from there, and we just build a formidable goaling duo, really, that we can swap and change to our heart's content when required. So that's it.
Well, our friend Rich, evening Rich, our friend Rich said that Ramsdale, we were having this discussion on Facebook, said that Ramsdale wouldn't be a keeper in any of the top 6 sides other than Arsenal. So we had a little bit of banter about that, and I said there's no way that I agree with that at all. So sort yourself out, Rich. Right, let's get on to the final bit. You'll be glad to know, Podders. Hey, can I put the kettle on? Yes, you can. The statue of Wenger was unveiled outside the Emirates. Overdue. It was a bit embarrassing, really, seeing his feet on the back of a lorry, some old substandard lorry come in, and and it had Wenger on the bottom. We knew he'd arrived. But let's not forget George Graham. I know it's not your era, Lauren. But George Graham was a winner. He did fantastic things for our club. And I know he did some naughty sort of, one for me and none for you. But should we now, Neil, be letting all that slide? Should we now look at the achievements of George Graham, 89 in particular, and bringing back, I wouldn't say an attractive style of football at times, but bringing back winning ways to the Arsenal?
No, can't forget it. It's part of our history. That's what makes us stand out from the clubs like City and Chelsea. We've got history going back to what? The turn of the
When I said about forgetting it, his misdemeanors, forget that and put a statue up or something.
Oh, the misdemeanors. I mean, to be honest, he only got caught because he admitted he'd done it. He turned himself in. He did the stupid thing of handing the money back. Well, everyone was at it at the time. It was obvious. A lot of the other managers were doing the same thing. He just, with the bung situation, he admitted it, and that's why he got caught, and that was the end of it. I think he should be honoured with something. He brought a few years of absolute joy to a club at that time. We were basically a mid-table team. We weren't going anywhere. We'd had a little bit of cup success in the late 70s, but after that, the next thing we won was under him, the League Cup in 87, wasn't it? I think it was, when good old Charlie Nicholas scored. And that was the time when Ian Rush scored, they always won, and there's never going to be broken, and we proved them wrong. We broke that record. It was phenomenal. And then, of course, the rest is history. And what he did with the 89, that's still my favourite moment as an Arsenal fan. I mean, we've had tremendous stuff. Lauren's probably seen some great stuff in her time. We've had the Invincibles, we've had the double, we did 2 doubles, 3 doubles, all that great stuff. But, for me, 89, just that moment as a fan, how old was I then? I was 18 or something. It was just incredible. And I don't think it'll ever be matched because the emotions it stirred within me when we scored that, 93rd minute goal, or whatever it was, by Michael Thomas. And, he turned us into a winning club. And in fact, if anything, I would suggest that he gave us the foundation to then what Wenger came and kind of took over. He took over the reins. I know he had Bruce Rioch-Samage in the middle for a year, but I think what George Graham did, he put Arsenal kind of back on the map, because in the early 90s, we were kind of considered to be the new rivals for Man United at the time. For Liverpool at the time. Sorry, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For Liverpool at the time, and it's not an easy thing to do, because Liverpool at that time was just an unbeatable team, especially at Anfield. So I think there should be something for him, even if it's like, that there's a Ken Fryer statue as well, isn't there? A very small one. Something to honour him, maybe. I would anyway, but then again, I'm from that era, and I've got fond memories of it. And it wasn't all boring play. We brought in when Limpar, it was great, wasn't he? I mean, I know we had Rocky Rocastle, who was one of the best number 7s the club's ever had. You had players like that who were enterprising and creative, maybe ahead of their time a little bit. No, he deserves something, some mention or something.
Lauren, to put it in perspective, when you said about that feeling when Nelson nicked that last-minute goal, that's exactly what 89 gave you. So you've experienced it, just not back in time.
Not the outcome that we wanted, but hey, it's fine.
Yeah. Obviously, it was something a bit more substantial on the end of it, but
yeah.
Guys, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on the show. Jay is in Tenerife, and he messaged me earlier on and said he couldn't get a signal. It was a shit signal in his hotel. Well, go up the stars, mate. You don't have to be in a bunk or something, or I don't know, some sort of palm tree. Get yourself a decent hotel. You can afford it. You're minted. Lauren, thanks ever so much. It's lovely to see you again. Thanks for your input on the show, and back for the next one.
Of course. As long as you keep having me, that's fine. No problem.
It's all happening. Neil, thanks ever so much. I'm glad. Don't be surprised if I pop out of one of your bushes outside your house.
Oh, well, you just keeping tabs on. I mean, I'll make you
tapping your phones.
Lauren, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you. You were fantastic, and it was
likewise.
I think I've seen you on the pods before, but I've never actually interacted like this. So it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it, and thank you, Tom. An honour and a pleasure to be on as always. So thank you. Really,
you're welcome, mate. Don't be a stranger. Come back. Podcast family, just give you this. It's an Arsenal thing 4@gmail.com, and don't be a stranger either. North London is absolutely red.